I forgot the rule that when NASCAR has a good weekend or a good week or a good day, we're only allowed about, let's call it 2 days of happiness after that. Well, those 2 days came to a close real quick because the news broke this morning that NASCAR is countersuing 2311 Racing, Front Row Motorsports, and on top of that, they're going to go after Curtis Polk himself. Yeah, there's a lot to process here. I'm going to do my best to recap it. Legal speak is not my strong suit, but I will do my best to explain some of it to you. But how did we get here? How did we get to March 5th, 2025? Ooh, 2 whole months off. How did we get here? Well, back in 2016, that's where we're going to start. A new thing comes up called the charter deal. The charter had been negotiated. It had been finalized. What is a charter? A charter is, it's theoretically, I guess, a piece of paper. But basically, a charter is a document that guarantees the owner of the charter a spot in the NASCAR Cup Series field for every single race. Now, you also have to participate or at least, attempt to qualify every single race, but that charter deal locks you into every race, whether it's the summer race at Sonoma, whether it's the spring race at Texas, or of course the big one, the Daytona 500. No matter what, you're in. There are also monetary elements to this charter and more money. It means more money for you. So the charter, it was invented it was added to NASCAR in 2016, and they limited it at 36. So there are 36 charters out there. No more, I guess, no less. So the 36 charters are out there. You are limited to 4, or you were, I should say. And for example, Hendrick Motorsports has 4 charters. Joe Gibbs Racing has 4. But then Team Penske has 3. Then you go to some 2-car teams. Like previously, Roush Fenway Racing, they used to be a 2-car team, and then even the single-car teams like a JTG Doherty team. So whether you were a single-car team, 4-car team, if you had a charter, you were guaranteed a spot in the field. You got some more money. That's the quick summary, I guess, of it. Well, that deal went from 2016 to the end of 2024. So what happens at the end of 2024? Do the charters just go away? Do they have to sign a new deal? Yeah, they have to sign a new deal. And let's just say it got ugly. In this actual countersuit, NASCAR breaks down the negotiations. We'll go through that in a minute. I got a ton of notes here. But basically what happens is the teams approach NASCAR about extending the charter negotiation beyond 2024, around 2022. That's according to NASCAR. Well, we get to 2024. Beginning of 2024, no deal has been made, but negotiations aren't going great, but at least they're talking. Then it's the spring. Then it's the summer. Okay, the NASCAR playoffs are about to start, and we have no deal. It's gotten ugly. It's been bad. There's been a lot of negativity around it. So what's going to happen next? Well, at Atlanta Motor Speedway, I think it was like September 7th or September 8th, back in 2024, it is announced that 13 of the 15 teams have signed the new charter agreement that will be a 7-year extension to the end of 2031. Realize how I said 13 of the 15 teams. 2 teams did not sign the new charter agreement. 2311 Racing, the team made in 2021, co-owned by Michael Jordan, the NBA legend, the GOAT, Denny Hamlin, future NASCAR Hall of Famer, 3-time Daytona 500 winner, driver for Joe Gibbs Racing. And then Curtis Polk is also a co-owner in that team. He has been Michael Jordan's agent, advisor, business partner for decades at this point. And then the other team in this lawsuit, spoiler alert, obviously, the other team that did not sign the agreement was Front Row Motorsports, owned by Bob Jenkins. They used to be a backmarker team, made their way up to the midfield, and now they are a Tier 1 team with Ford. But they have been building over the last couple of years in terms of their competitiveness. Well, those 2 teams did not sign the charter agreement, and as a result, they decided to sue NASCAR for antitrust violations. They went and they hired Jeffrey Kessler as their attorney. Jeffrey Kessler, a high-profile attorney who has dealt with cases like this in suing major sporting corporations in terms of antitrust violations, monopolies, things like that. So a well-known team owner in Michael Jordan. You got two NASCAR teams suing NASCAR, and they got a well-known attorney. It's not pretty. It's ugly. There's no other way to put it. It's been ugly. And they had a court date back in the offseason, I want to say January sometime, where Michael Jordan, Denny, Hamlin, Curtis Polk, Jeffrey Kessler all showed up to the court. NASCAR had their people. They hired an attorney who's also dealt with high-profile cases like this. So it's been a process. It's been ugly. Well, this morning, the ugliness took another turn. Officially, I'm sure NASCAR's been on the works for a while on this, but NASCAR decided to countersue. What does this mean? Well, let's say theoretically, I am NASCAR. Sam Hornish Jr. here is the teams. The teams here are suing me. And I say, I don't like that. In fact, I have some evidence against you, so I'm going to sue you back, buddy. You suck. You are getting countersued. I think that's the simplest way I can explain it. If that's a bad way to explain it, sorry. But yes, there were some documents that came out, and from some of the stuff I read, I'm just going to do a quick little recap here. So as I said, NASCAR claims that these negotiations started in 2022 because, of course, 2311 and FRM are saying that NASCAR forced, coerced, threatened teams if they did not sign the new charter deal that weekend in Atlanta last September. Well, NASCAR is ironically using similar terminology. They came out and said, hey, actually, this was not a last-minute deal. We did not force you and start negotiations in that weekend in September. This has been going on since 2022, these negotiations. The charters were initially made to govern the relationship between NASCAR and the team owners on periods of 7 to 14 years. That is what NASCAR is saying. The teams in this new deal would receive increased portions of revenue and other concessions that the team owners requested. That is the point of a negotiation. NASCAR also reiterated that the negotiations took place over years, and they deny allegations that the negotiations were, quote, rushed and teams were not given sufficient time to evaluate the chartered terms, unquote. 13 of the 15 teams agreed to this deal. NASCAR specifically pointed that out. And then, quote, 2311 and FRM felt differently, unquote. Another quote from this document says they did not want to enter into a long-term contractual relationship with NASCAR. So that is just basically the reasons, I guess, for the countersuit, or the breakdown of how we got here from their point of view. And then we get to the reasons for the actual countersuit. Quote, those teams embarked on a strategy to threaten, coerce, and extort NASCAR. We will be coming back to this point later. Into meeting their demands for better contract and financial terms, unquote. They cite that they, being NASCAR, cited that the teams are aided by counsel, Jeffrey Kessler, who has a history of suing sports leagues and accusing them of anti-competitive conduct. They also cited that charters are a goodwill provision and also guarantee spots in the field, as we talked about earlier. And then there's another quote that says, if the charters are deemed to be anti-competitive, then either charters will go away entirely or the cross-exclusivities that benefited both parties will be eliminated. They also stated, they being NASCAR once again, stated that this is an outcome they are not seeking, nor is it one that they believe benefits teams who signed the agreement. And then we get to Curtis Polk. So those bullet points I just read right there, that is the reason that they are countersuing 2311 and FRM. Well, boy, do they have some hate for Mr. I believe. I don't know if he's a doctor, but let's just go with Mr. Curtis Polk. NASCAR, Jenna Fryer, she tweeted the perfect tweet to recap this. Update, NASCAR pretty much hates Curtis Polk. And yes, they do pretty much hate Curtis Polk. That is the nice way to put it. Here we go. He, quote, willfully violated the antitrust laws by orchestrating anti-competitive collective conduct in connection with the terms of the 2025 charter agreements. They also said that Polk wanted to change the economic model by demanding more money from NASCAR media revenues instead of teams competing against each other for sponsorship dollars. Whew. Essentially, they said that he was the head of a group who would talk to NASCAR about charter negotiations and that they had demands. So he was the head of this committee in the negotiations. They also said, in another quote, Polk's individual role was at the very center of the plot to use collusive behavior to extract more favorable terms from NASCAR in the charter negotiations. NASCAR also said that Polk's strategies and threats included boycotting NASCAR events, televised qualifying races, negative media campaigns with at least one NASCAR media partner to affect media rights negotiations, and coercion of other team owners. Yeah, so basically they are saying, Curtis Polk, you are evil from their point of view. And then some quotes from NASCAR's attorney, Chris Yates. He points out that NASCAR, they don't need the charter system theoretically, but they believe that it's fair and equitable. He says it brings little benefit to NASCAR itself, that 2311 and Front Row are endangering the continuation of the charter system. He also goes on to point out that they're destroying the value that the race teams in partnership with NASCAR have built. He also says that they chose to sue NASCAR alleging baseless monopolization claims, and that's why NASCAR's countersuing, and also pointing out Curtis Polk. They did say Mr. Polk, so I guess I was right there. And then this quote, NASCAR wants to work with teams to grow the sport. I don't know if 2311 and Front Row want to grow the sport, so I don't know what the path toward a resolution here is at the moment. So yeah, there are a couple points I want to focus on here. Let's go back to this document I have pulled up, or the summary I have pulled up here. But yes, okay, point number one. Look, I know a lot of people are going to side with the teams here. But technically, if we're going to be technical, NASCAR kind of has a point on the charters. If 2311 and FRM are going to sue NASCAR, saying that the charter negotiations, the charter deal was unfair, that it was monopolization, they were threatened and coerced into this deal, then okay, we'll just get rid of the charters and we don't have to deal with this anymore. It's a little of an extreme response, obviously. It would enrage a lot of people, probably stage a bigger boycott or a bigger protest against NASCAR themselves, but I guess they technically have a point there. But then we get to this, and the irony is just through the roof. I'm looking up at space right now. That's how far up the irony is. The quote that says those teams embarked on a strategy to threaten, coerce, and extort NASCAR. I'm pretty sure that those were the exact terms that 2311 and Front Row and other team owners used anonymously against NASCAR. I remember right after this deal went down that weekend in September, and there were anonymous quotes from team owners that felt like they had a gun held to their head. I think there was an interview with Richard Childress that said, I can't remember. I think he said something like he had no choice, he had to do it. Rick Hendricks said he was just tired of negotiating. He was tired of it going this long, and he just signed the deal. When we have an anonymous source, an anonymous team owner saying they felt like they had a gun to their head, when you have 2311 and Front Row coming out suing NASCAR saying that they threatened and coerced, and now NASCAR's flipping it around and saying, no, it wasn't us. It was you. Screw you, buddy. You did this, not me. It's like the irony that they're using similar terminology to kind of fight back, in a sense. As for the Curtis Polk thing, oh my goodness, I had no idea NASCAR hated Curtis Polk so much. So yeah, he shows up to Darlington the week before the deal was actually made, and he has this sign on the back of his shirt. Like he taped on a piece of paper Please don't ask me about my charter. I don't want to disparage NASCAR and lose it. And then it's the zipped lips emoji. So yeah, that was something. And I guess that enraged NASCAR so much. In fact, I remember when Tyler Reddick was celebrating the regular season championship, I remember Curtis Polk, when he was talking to Joe Gibbs, he said something like, "Hey, did you see the shirt? You see my shirt?" And yeah, here's the clip.
You hear about my shirt? You hear about my shirt? Don't ask.
But yeah, here we are in March of 2025, still talking about it. As for the boycotts and stuff, yeah, I remember preseason of 2024, there was a report that teams, if they didn't like what was going on in the charter negotiations, it could escalate into on-track protests or even boycotts. Obviously, we never actually got to that point. We only got to the report section. But NASCAR specifically cites in their countersuits that there was a strategy, or there were threats from Curtis Polk, or at least the group that he led, about boycotting televised qualifying races. So maybe the Daytona duels, maybe the heat races and the All-Star race. I don't really know which qualifying races those were, but those are the only ones I can think of. Negative media campaigns, meeting with at least one NASCAR media partner to affect the media rights negotiations. So I guess they're saying that he went behind NASCAR's back, talked trash about NASCAR maybe, or I don't know, but they're making it seem like Curtis, from NASCAR's point of view, Curtis Polk's a really bad guy who did this smear campaign from all these different angles, whether it was just speaking negatively about NASCAR in the media, trying to hurt the media rights deal, or trying to stage a boycott or a protest in some sort. But yes, I think the court date is in November or December of this year, so we still got a long way to go, but it was already ugly. It got ugly last year. It escalated. It super escalated when 2311 and FRM sued. And now it's super duper escalated with NASCAR suing back. So either way, there's going to be a big loser in this. It's already really ugly. As of right now, I don't see any way that they come to a deal, that they come to a settlement of any sort, just because it's gotten so ugly. There's been so many grenades thrown at each other that once again, I'm not a legal expert, but just from the common folk point of view, it's gotten so ugly. So many insults have been thrown. Someone's got to win and someone's got to lose. I don't see this going into a settlement, because purely it's a lot of stubbornness and anger, and rarely does that ever help anyone. So it's ugly, it's bad, it's not fun for anyone, but we'll see what the teams have to say. We'll see what Denny Hamlin has to say this weekend at Phoenix. But thanks for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. Here we are. We got Phoenix this weekend. Maybe an Austin Cindric penalty later today. I don't know. But thanks again for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.